the MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
Teller is back. Episode Fight Night 155 taking place in Sacremento this weekend. We basically have the entire Team Alpha Male fight team fighting on this card, man. It's crazy. We got a bunch of them fighting. And I think a bunch of them are going to pull off some wins, too. I mean, we got some of them coming in as the underdogs, but, I'll get into some of those fights. Some of them, I don't know, man. They're underdogs. I think some of them should be the favorites, so we'll get into that. Other than that, UFC 239, holy fucking shit, man. That was a crazy card. Really lived up to the hype and the expectations. First of all, let's get right into it, man. Jorge Masvidal and Ben Askren, man, that fight was fucking crazy, man. The quickest knockout in UFC history, 5 seconds. I mean, it really could have even been quicker. I mean, as soon as he hit him with that knee, he was unconscious. So, I mean, the fight should have been stopped right there. Took a second for the ref to get in there and break it up, but shit, man. I'm not going to lie. I had Ben Askren win that fight, and I'll tell you the truth. Right now, if they were to run it back, if they scheduled a rematch, I'll still take Ben Askren to win that fight. We never even got to see that fight take place, as far as I'm concerned, man. I mean, I know that's Ben's fault. I mean, he made a big mistake that cost him, awfully. But, if they run that back, I really think that Ben would play it a little bit more safe and eventually get a hold of him and dominate the fight with his wrestling. But nevertheless, man, props to Jorge Masvidal. I still don't think he's getting the next title shot. I still think Colby's going to get the next shot after he defeats Robbie Lawler. Not that that's a given, though. Robbie Lawler's a beast, so we'll see what happens. If he loses, then Jorge will be up next. So, some exciting things going on in the welterweight division. I took that L, on that bet right there. But, of course, being the savvy better that I am, I did a parlay, Amanda Nunes, John Jones. I think I got decent odds on both those fights. I knew neither of them were going to lose. And, that covered the Askren fight right there. And not only did I parlay Jones with Nunes, I also parlayed him with a future bet, Max Holloway, which is something that 100% will be cashing once Holloway defeats Edgar. So overall, slightly up on the night, but nothing to be proud about. I was a little disappointed about the Askren play. But, that's how it is, man. An off night for me is still breaking even or slightly above even, so that's what it's all about, guys. Other than that, man, a hell of a fight card. Diego Sanchez, he was very motivated for that fight, but was completely dominated by Chiesa. Luke Rockhold, man. Whew. Luke Rockhold, he doesn't seem to have his chin, man. He's getting put out cold just disgustingly multiple times now. I think a lot of people have been mentioning that maybe he should hang up the gloves, and, I wouldn't be opposed to that as well. I think maybe it is time. He's a model in his off time and whatnot, and if he wants to keep his face looking pretty, he better hang them up because he's going to get fucking just smashed up every time he goes in there at this point. He's looking slow, dropping his hands, and, shout out to the big Polish fighter, man, Jan Blachowicz, dude, tough guy. I want to see who they match him up with next, so, yeah, man, exciting fight card. We'll move along. Like I said, man, UFC Fight Night 155, a bunch of Team Alpha Male fighters fighting on this card. We got Uriah Faber making his long-awaited return, coming out of retirement. I think it's an excellent matchup for him. Ricky Simone, tough fighter. That's been the story with Uriah Faber from the beginning, man. Even if he takes a little step back, not fighting for the belt, he's still fighting top up-and-comers, the Jimmy Rivera's, back then when he was really on the rise. Faber doesn't want any easy fights, man, no givens. So he's right back in the mix, and if he pulls off this W, this will look very good for him. Maybe he'll try to get right back in the mix of things. So we'll see. This ain't going to be no one and done. He already said that. At least it's not for sure a one and done. If he gets a nice victory, he'll try to see who he can get next. He's probably going to try to call out Henry Cejudo. That'd be interesting. It's a big name fight, man. Faber his name holds weight. Man. He's a legend in the sport. So, with no further ado, let's start breaking down these fights. All right, the first fight of the night, we got Benito Lopez taking on Vince Morales. It's only fitting that we start the night off with the Team Alpha Male member. There's so many of them on this card. Why not start one off right from the jump, man? Benito Lopez, 9-1. He's been he's one of the young prospects, man, from Team Alpha Male. 25 years old. He already fought on Dana White's Contender Series. Looked good. Got the W there. He's coming off a loss, but a loss that's really, you can't be too hard on him for that loss. Manny Bermudez is a hell of an opponent. That guy is a top prospect. Just going in there, he's undefeated. He's submitting everybody. Benito Lopez was very game up until the point he got caught. He tried to step up to him, try to bring the fight. Got caught mixing it up in some scrambles, and Bermudez did what he does and just, yoked up a guillotine, and that guy can pull subs from any position. He's very, very dangerous, so, no real shame in that. And before that, Benito was looking very good. He's a scrappy, tough dude, and I think this is going to be a very close fight. Vince Morales, he's showing some potential as well. He's a tough dude. I mean, he steps in there, he expects to beat anybody. His last fight, he went in there against Aman Zahabi, who had a lot of hype going behind him. Fought him in his hometown, I believe, and he pulled off the unanimous decision, which some people had that fight close, but still, he went in there and he definitely won the fight. So, he's a tough fighter. Before that, he lost to Yadong Song, who's definitely shown to have some really good striking. He went the distance with him. And I think this guy has some potential. He's a young fighter. He's going to get better and better every time he steps in there. This fight's really hard to call, and the line's pretty close. Benito Lopez, he's a slight dog. I would say right now the value's on Benito, because I think this fight's almost a 50-50. And, matter of fact, I'm going to take Benito to win this fight. Being that it's in Sacramento, he's going to have the crowd behind him. Sometimes in these early fights, man, in the arena too, the judges can really, really hear, the select fans that enter early. I'm telling you, they have a big influence over these fights, because you can bet your boots that all of Benito's, his friends, his fans, they're all going to be in there, and that's all you're going to hear in the arena. You're going to be able to hear those select people. They really influence the fight. I'm telling you, I've seen this firsthand before. So, if this fight's even close, which I expect it to be, because Benito's going to bring the fight, I expect that the crowd might even have a slight little influence in it. And I wouldn't be super surprised if Benito's able to swap up a submission too, man. He has some submission skills. And, his opponent, he's been sub before. Morales has been prone to some submissions. So, don't be surprised if you see that. But expect it to be a close fight. At this point, not really sure if I'm going to have any money on either of these fighters. Like I said, if I do, it would be on Benito at this point. And at this point, I'm just going to sit back on it and wait and see what's going on with this line. If anything changes, I'll let you guys know. But Benito Lopez to win this fight. Up next, we got some strawweight females throwing it down. We got the Brazilian gangster, Livia Renata Souza, who's 13-1, taking on Brianna Van Buren, who's only 5 foot. This girl, she's 8-3. She has 3 questionable losses, right from the get. So I was a little surprised that she's coming in as the favorite. I thought the Brazilian gangster might have had the edge as far as the line goes. Her one loss is against Angela Hill, and it was a split decision loss. And you guys know the deal with Angela Hill. I mean, that's what she does. She tries to engage in those very close striking matches. The Brazilian gangster fell into that trap. I think she should have maybe tried to go a different avenue to get that W. But she tried to strike with Angela. She ended up losing a split decision. She's definitely learned from that sense, bounced back with a couple victories. This girl, Brianna, she's only 5 foot. And she's doing her thing over in Invicta, stringing off victories, not against the most reputable opponents. And, as I said, she has 3 questionable losses. But, I'm going to take a shot on the Brazilian gangster here. I just think she's going to have the reach advantage. She has a good jiu-jitsu game. She's a tough chick. She's going to go in there, expect to get the W. And, coming in as an underdog, I think the value's on her. So, if you have to pick one of these females, I'm going to go with the Brazilian gangster. This isn't necessarily a fight that I'm targeting or that I'm super confident in. But I'll definitely say, the value's on the Brazilian gangster. So, I think she might even be the better fighter. So, the Livia Renata Souza to pull this victory off against Brianna Van Buren. All right, we're rolling right through now. You guys know how we do it. We got another Team Alpha male product in Pingyan Lee taking on Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez, man, the young buck, he's 10-2. One of his losses was a disqualification against Matt Schnell, and you could pretty much scratch that L. He was looking pretty good in that fight, just caught Schnell with a nasty illegal knee. I don't know what he was thinking. Just straight up, Schnell was on all fours, and Martinez just straight up just grabbed him by the back of the head and just kneed him in his face. So, that showed that he, some bad decision making, but I wouldn't look too much into that. Other than that, he lost to Andre Sukumtat, tried to strike with him. Andre Sukumtat, man, underrated fighter. He's a tough fighter. He's strong, has power in his hands. So, I wouldn't look too much into that as well. I think Pingyan doesn't have as much power as a Sukumtat, but I think he's going to try to out-volume Jonathan Martinez here on the feet. He has crisp striking. He's won 14 out of his last 15 fights, so he has some momentum going with him, but really hasn't beat anyone, that good. Damian Stasiak, fighters like that. I think, Jonathan Martinez is the underdog in this fight. I think the value's on him, and I think he's even the better fighter here too. So Jonathan Martinez has a solid jiu-jitsu game. He pulls subs off. 25 years old. He's getting better every time he steps in there. I'm hoping that he looks a little bit more filled going into this fight. I want to see him put a little bit of muscle on. But like I said, his jiu-jitsu game is good. Ping Yan, he's definitely getting the proper training at Team Alpha Male, but I just think he's a little overhyped. Before he moved over to Team Alpha Male, training over in China, they're trying to find some of these Chinese fighters that are good, but I don't really think Ping Yan's necessarily on the level as of right now. I don't think he's a minus 150 favorite going into this spot, so I was a little surprised about that. And, I think Jonathan Martinez is going to pull this fight off, so maybe even gets the sub. Ooh, up next, I'm excited about this fight, man. Another Team Alpha Male product, man, and Darren Elkins, a guy that really has just, revived his career since he went over to Team Alpha Male. Definitely taking his training seriously. He looks to be in amazing shape. He's taking on Ryan Hall, who's 7-1. He's 34 years old at this point. Really doesn't get a lot of fights. I've always found that kind of strange when it comes to Ryan Hall. As old as he is, they barely ever give him fights. They finally gave him that BJ Penn fight, which was, he looked good in that fight, pulled off the submission, but against BJ Penn, who's completely washed up. Other than that, he beat Gray Maynard. That was the shell of Gray Maynard, and that was a very close fight. I think Maynard probably even won that fight. Ryan Hall kept flopping to his back. He did beat Artem Lobov. I'm a big Lobov fan, man. Lobov, the GOAT. But, Artem Lobov doesn't win mixed martial arts fights, so it's kind of hard to really look into that too much. Saul Rogers is a guy that beat Ryan Hall, the one lone, L on Ryan Hall's record, and he really showed the recipe to beat him. I'm not really sure why a lot of these other guys aren't just following that same recipe. Let Ryan Hall keep flopping to his back. It looks horrible for the judges. Just outstrike him. Keep your distance from him. Try not to scramble with him. This guy, Ryan Hall, in my opinion, has the best 50-50, in the game. 50-50 position. This guy pulls off heel hooks, ankle submissions, all types of stuff. He's just nasty with it. But, in his striking, it's not horrible. It's definitely not really up to par, but he has that karate stance. He's light in his feet, tries to come in and out, throw his little crisp strikes. But, if you come in with a solid Muay Thai game, if you even have halfway decent striking, you're going to outstrike this guy. You're going to look better to the judges in your exchanges with him just based on his style. And I think this is Darren Elkins' fight to win. He's the slight underdog. I think there's some value at this line. I already got something going on him here. Elkins, man, 24-7, underrated fighter, as tough as it comes. Some reputable wins that he has, man, beat Michael Johnson, Dennis Bermudez, Backtick. That was a crazy fight, man. The Mirsad Backtick fight. We'll get, into Backtick here a little bit later, too. He's on this card, but Backtick is a top prospect, solid fighter. And, Backtick was beating the shit out of him, but what heart Elkins showed. Just absolutely spectacular. Came back and got that knockout victory. He also has a win against Chaz Skelly, who's a scrappy opponent. Elkins does his thing, man. His two losses as of recently were against Ricardo Lamas and Volkanovski. Volkanovski is an absolute stud, cream of the crop in the weight division. Ricardo Lamas is a staple of the division. So, the real way to beat Elkins, man, you gotta tee off on him, which, don't get me wrong, he could take a shot, but his brain's starting to, as of recently, it started to catch up with him. He did get knocked out here a few times. I think that's going to be the avenue to beat him as of right now, and I don't see Ryan Hall carrying that power to finish Elkins off. I really just don't see that happening. I think if Hall's going to get this victory, it's if Elkins makes some mistakes and tries to scramble with him and falls into his 50-50 game and somehow, gets his legs snatched up and gets pulled into a sub. Other than that, man, if he avoids that, I think Elkins will be the stronger grappler. If he can, just hold on to his back, put him against the cage, maybe toss him down here and there. I think he'll have more power in his hands. And I think his type of style against Ryan Hall, it'll look better for the judges. So, I expect him to pull off a decision victory here. And, I got a little bit of money on this fight, too. So, I'll let you guys know about that, giving you guys some insight. Elkins is a player here in this card. So, I happen to smell a little bit of money when it comes to this fight, and I like it. So, I'll have a little play on Elkins. Nothing crazy. But, I'll talk about this guy Elkins a little bit more. I've been watching him throughout for years and years now, and this guy, you hear stories about him in the gym. This is a guy that, the team finishes practice. They're settling down. They're ready to get out the gym. This guy's still in the gym for hours after these other guys leaves. He's trying to find opponents, not opponents, but, partners, teammates to even continue to roll with him. This is a guy that will he battles some of these Russian guys that come through Team Alpha Male. He'll grapple with them for hours upon hours. Once one guy's done, he wants the next guy. Some of these Russian guys were joking, about how they came to Team Alpha Male, and they're like, what the fuck is this guy, Darren Elkins? This guy's an animal. There's these two brothers that were over there, I believe, and, he's rolling with one guy for hours, then he's going to the next brother. The guy just doesn't get tired, and that's a true skill, man, in this sport, man, in this game. It carries a lot of weight. Cardio is everything. This guy, he's never going to be out of the fight. He's still going to be walking forward. Even if somehow Hall gets the best of him on the feet or something in the first round or so, Darren Elkins is coming right back out in the second round, and he's going to be trying to mow you down. And as his opponent starts to decline throughout these fights, Elkins, it seems that he gets better. It's like he even gets more cardio. It's like he's ready to go even more. He has more energy. It's nuts. So I like that about Elkins, man. He's a true moose. He has a solid chin. I mean, I know he's been knocked out twice as of recently, but like I said, man, against guys like Volkanovski is a tank. He's going to take out anyone at this point right now, if he connects. So, and Lamas is a very, very powerful dude as well. So this is Darren Elkins' fight, man. He needs to step up. Like I said, he looks to be in excellent shape, and I think he's going to really rise to the occasion. This is a big fight for him. Elkins is going to pull this fight off. Up next, we got the Venezuelan Vixen making her return. She's been out the game for a little bit, Juliana Pena. It's always nice to look at her fighting in the cage, man, taking on Nico Montano. These are two tough winners, so Nico 4-2. She doesn't have as much experience as Juliana, but Juliana, she hasn't been consistently fighting in the octagon so much as of recently, man. She's been struggling with a lot of injuries. Her knees have let her down a few times. Had some big surgeries on them, but she's an extremely scrappy chick. And a very underrated fighter. She was on a 7-fight win streak before her last loss, which was, one of the greatest female fighters to ever do it in Valentina Shevchenko. So, it's funny. I was actually talking about that in one of my last videos that we did, and I was saying, it's between Nunes and her. I think after what Nunes just did, Nunes jumped back up to GOAT status. You have to give it to her after that nice victory over Holly Holm. But, Valentina is absolutely no joke, and she has to be right there in second place, in my opinion. So no real shame in that loss for Juliana. Nico, on the other hand, she has some decent wins. She beat Montana De La Rosa, Lauren Murphy, Roxanne Modafari. It's funny to kind of say Roxanne as a reputable opponent, but really, at this point in the game, she is. She used to be a pretty big joke at one point in time, but she's a scrappy fighter. She's a veteran. She has good grappling. And if you could pull off a victory against her, it's a feather in your cap as far as the women's mixed martial arts games goes. So, one of her losses, Nico's losses, as it was against Juliana Avila, who we just saw fight this past weekend and proved to be a very, very tough fighter. I called that victory. She looked very good. That fight took place just as I said it was. She was going to brutalize her opponent, and that's exactly what happened. So no real shame in that loss. If Juliana's healthy and she's ready to go, which I'm assuming she is, she's back in the game. Everything I've seen from her, she looks to be healthy. I think this is her fight to win. She's a minus 185. It's a little bit steep. But like I said, if she's healthy, I think she'll get the better of the grappling exchanges with Nico. Nico's a tough girl, but I just think that I think Juliana, when she's on her game, she has some true potential. She's beat some solid fighters. And I hope she comes back here and she's healthy and she pulls off this victory. It'd be nice to see. Not necessarily something I'm looking to bet right now. Like I said, it's a pretty steep line. I'll keep you updated with that. But, yeah, Juliana Pena to come in here and get back in the victory column. Up next, we got another Team Alpha Male product, Andre Touchy-feely, one of the true staples from Team Alpha Male, man. He's been there since, the beginning. A young buck, just completely groomed at Team Alpha Male. He's taking on Morais. Morais, he's 11-3. I like this guy, very good striker. Although I did, win some money against him in his last fight. I took Sadiq Yusuf. And I knew Sadiq's striking was going to be a little bit better than Shaman's and capitalized on that. So that was one of his 3 losses. Other than that, he lost to Zabit and Marlon Morais. Absolutely no shame in either of those losses. It's funny, I mean, really out of, his 14 fights, the most questionable fight out of all of them was a victory that he had against Matt Sales, where his cardio really just seemed to not look so good in the later rounds. I think he's looked better since that fight in the later rounds. Maybe he fixed that up a little bit, or maybe there was something going on to the lead up to that fight. But that's definitely always a question mark. I'll always look into something like that. But other than that, his striking's very crisp, and he looks very good coming out in the beginning of these fights. The first or second round, he's very crisp, very technical. And Andre Touchy-feely, this guy has some holes in his striking. It's been getting better. He's starting to whip that head kick. He really fell in love with that head kick. He constantly just throws that. It's not really a strike that he throws just to sneak up and finish his opponent. It's something that he really he uses almost as a jab. I mean, he just constantly throws that head kick just, to keep his opponent backing up and wear on their arms. So, I mean, I've liked that from him. He's coming off that one loss, that split decision loss against Michael Johnson. That was a very close fight. I kind of had Andre winning that fight. And as I said, Andre's looking better as of recently. I just don't think that he's going to be able to hang with Shaman on the feet. And I kind of see this fight taking place on the feet. Shaman's going to be a little bit more technical, crisp, quicker, athletic. And it's going to be a tough fight, though. It's going to be a close fight. Andre's, he's in his hometown. He's going to have Sacremento all behind his back and all that. But I just think that Shaman might have potential to finish this fight or just really style on him in the first 2 rounds. If there is going to be a hole in Shaman's game, or maybe he drops the ball in this fight, it might be in that 3rd round. Maybe Andre rallies. Maybe he can tag him up, pull off a submission. Or maybe he wins the end of that 2nd round and then maybe pulls off the 3rd and wins a close decision. But I'll give a slight lean to Shaman. Like I said, man, I'm going to reiterate it too much, but I really like this guy striking, and I think you'll get some good value for your dollar based off his striking skills. So Shaman Morais to pull it off. Next, we have the Dana White's Contender Series product, Mike Rodriguez, taking on John Allen, the Brazilian product, taking this fight on short notice. Mike Rodriguez was supposed to be fighting Gene Vellante. Gene Vellante had to pull out, so John Allen taking this fight on short notice, the Brazilian product, currently the number 4 light heavyweight Brazilian ranked fighter. This guy definitely has some holes in his game, has a lot of questionable losses on his record. Out of his 5 losses, some of the guys he's lost to, really wasn't impressed with them. So, taking this fight on short notice as well. This is definitely Mike Rodriguez's spot, to come in and handle business. Here's the thing, though. Mike Rodriguez has some questionable losses on his record as well. 10-3. He definitely came in and did work in his last fight against Adam Milstead. Adam Milstead's a solid fighter, good striker. Before that, he lost to Devin Clark. Devin Clark, he's spotty. He's been looking a little bit better as of recently. I'll give him that, but still, it's not the most reputable win. Has a first round loss to Kevin Haley, lost to Pat McCrone, unanimous decision. I mean, these are questionable losses, and you got to kind of look into them. I know he's been putting it together as of recently, getting a lot of first round finishes as well, but I mean, if he comes out here, doesn't get that first round finish against this guy John, maybe this guy John's been handling his business, been in great shape, waiting to be called for a short notice fight, because I'm sure he has some notice about this. Maybe he steps up and pulls his victory off. I mean, are you gonna put a minus 400 on Rodriguez expecting him to win this fight? Fuck no, man. I'm not doing that. So I wouldn't be shocked if Rodriguez comes out here and makes quick work of him, but I want nothing to do with this fight. That's why I'm not going to even put too much more time into this fight. If you guys are playing this fight, let me know below. I want to see who's actually playing a fight like this based on the odds. I think it's bad value. I think it's reckless, and it's not the Teller style. So, but again, wouldn't be surprised if he pulls off the knockout. We'll take Mike Rodriguez maybe to pull off the finish. Up next, this one's a tough fight to call, man. Cezar Ferreira taking on Marvin Vettori, the Italian Dream. I think this guy needs to change his nickname to the Italian Stallion. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? The Italian Stallion or the Italian Dream? I think it rolls better off the tongue. But I think Marvin Vettori is a solid fighter. He's coming off a split decision loss to Israel Adesanya. No real shame in that. I mean, that fight really it took place on the feet. And he held his own against Israel. And Israel, this guy, he's the interim middleweight champion. He's a solid striker. So, that's a feather in his cap in its own right. Other than that, he had the draw against Amari Akhmedov, who's a tough fighter. That was a very close fight. He should have had that fight. I mean, that was his fight to win. So, then he had the victory against Vitor Miranda, who's not the best of fighters, stands very much upright, not the greatest of fighter. And then he had the loss to Antonio Carlos Jr., who, in my opinion, is a very similar fighter to Cezar. I think Antonio is a better fighter, but very similar. So, I got a lot out of watching that fight, and it's just a tough fight to call, man. Cezar has a very good jiu-jitsu game. He's worked on his striking as of recently, the past few years. Always comes in to be in great shape. He's put years in with, Vitor Belfort. He was prodigy. He's coming off a loss in his own right against Ian Heinisch, but Ian Heinisch, I've been making money off him, man. Underdog odds in his last 3 fights. That guy's an absolute fucking dog. Very, very solid fighter. And so I wouldn't look too much into that, and he looked decent in that fight. But before that, had the arm triangle submission against Carl Robertson, beat Nate Marquardt, but questionable loss before that, man, against Elias Theodorou, who's since been cut. And I think it was just a lackluster fighter. Before that, man, he had a win against Jack Hermanson. But, I'm stringing off these guys' records. But what I'm trying to get at, this fight's just a very hard fight to call. I'm going to take Marvin Vettori here. As far as a value stance goes, I'm not really sure if it's the best value. He's like a minus 150, 160 right now. I don't know about that. I could see him keeping this fight in the feet and just outstriking Cezar, though. That's kind of what I'm going to picture happening in this fight. If Cezar is somehow able to get this fight to the ground, I could see him using his jiu-jitsu to pull off a victory, but I'm going to go with Marvin to pull this off. I think Marvin's hungry for a victory right now. He's young. He's been putting in work. I believe he's 25 years old, so he's going to be looking better and better each fight. You guys know how I always say that. And coming off, a 3-round fight with Israel Adesanya, you're definitely going to be a better fighter the next time you step in the octagon after that. So Marvin Vettori to piece Cezar up on the feet, maybe get a stoppage on the feet. Up next, we got another fighter taking a fight on short notice, and he's Brazilian, and he has a name that you would not think to be a Brazilian name. We got Wellington Turman taking on Carl Robertson. So, this is going to be a tough fight for Wellington. He's coming in here, taking the fight on short notice, as I said. Carl Robertson has some momentum behind him. He has some good boxing game, has some nice crisp hands. And I think this fight's going to come down to, can Carl Robertson keep the fight standing and just, outstrike him on the feet? Or can this guy Wellington impose his will, maybe use his striking to set up some clinch work, some takedowns, maybe pull off a submission victory? I don't necessarily see that happening from what I've seen on tape. But, if you want to take a shot, you're getting some decent odds. Carl Robertson is more than a 2-1 favorite at this point. But, from what I've seen on tape, what I picture happening, I just see Carl Robertson pulling off the victory, maybe even getting a knockout, using his striking to pull this off. This won't be a fight that I'm targeting and really won't be paying too much attention to. Probably one of my smoke break type of fights. So, and I don't even smoke. But Carl Robertson to pull it off. All right, we reached the co-main event of the evening. As far as I'm concerned, these last 3 fights, for this event, it's where it's at. These are the 3 fights that we want to see. Mirsad Bektic taking on Josh Emmett. Both these guys just, the cream of the crop in this division. Really, really good fighters. Mirsad Bektic is a guy that I've been watching for years, for a little bit less than a decade at this point, man. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Maybe, not a decade necessarily, but since this guy was 19 years old, this guy was an American top team prospect. If you were reading the forums years ago like I was, this was the guy that everyone's had their eyes on. He started very young with the American top team. He's now at TriStar Gym. He since moved up to Canada. Another great gym, man, over there with Sahabi, Faraz Sahabi. So, the Bosnian-born fighter is an absolute beast. He has that one loss on his record against Darren Elkins. Speak of the devil, we spoke about him earlier. And that was a fight that Backtick was absolutely destroying Elkins. Probably 10-8 rounds, the first 2 rounds. Got a little eager and he could have cruised into victory, but just kept trying to bring the fight and put himself in a bad position and then ended up getting TKO'd finished by Elkins. So... Elkins caught him with that head kick and then followed it up and, he kind of caught Backtick slipping. He kind of gassed out a little bit. But Elkins, that's what, Elkins is a fucking stud, man. That's what he does. Back in the day especially, man, you could not put that guy away and people exerted too much of their energy and they paid for it. But like I said, I think Backtick has learned since then. As he's came in recently, he's been playing a little bit more safe. Although he did just completely destroy Godfredo Pepe with those body punches, put him away in the first round. But the Ricardo Lamas fight, split decision victory, wasn't overly impressed with Backtick in that fight, but you could definitely tell he was playing it safe. He out-grappled Lamas, didn't really want to exchange too much on the feet. And now he's fighting this guy, Josh Emmett, that can put anyone's lights out in the division. point blank. I mean, this guy carries just straight power in his hands. Josh Emmett's another guy, though, too, man. This is a guy that he can be put away. He's been he got knocked out by Jeremy Stevens. I saw that fight live. And, his chin's questionable at this point in the game, too. He's a little bit up there in age. And, if Backtick carries power, too. So if Backtick connects on him, he could put him to sleep. I think this fight, I have a feeling that this fight's going to end up being a barn burner. I don't think Backtick's going to go out there and try to do the same thing he did against Lamas. Or for that matter, I don't think it's going to work. I think Emmett has he's a very good wrestling background himself, and I think he'll keep this fight standing. And Emmett's going to win exchange. Emmett's going to try to bring the fight. That's what he does. So that does scare me a little bit if you're going to be playing Backtick, because I think this fight's going to take place in the feet, and it could be a coin flip if somebody gets put to sleep. It's hard. I've been going back and forth on this fight. Emmett's the underdog. I think the value is definitely on Emmett. If you guys want, a good value for your money, you got to go with Emmett. But then again, this guy Backtick, man, he may be the truth. This guy should be undefeated up to this point, and he might be one of those fighters, if you know what I mean. Really just a special fighter that might just, go on a long streak and, end up fighting for the belt and might take it eventually. So this is a tricky fight. Man, I don't know, man. I'm going to leave it like this, man. I'm going to tell you the value's on Emmett. I got to pick Backtick to win this fight. It's a very, very slight edge. I got to go with Backtick. Doesn't matter, favorite or underdog. I got to give who I really feel has the better chance to win this fight. Whether it's, 51% to 49%, I'm going to say who I think's going to win this fight. I got to go with Backtick. It's a very close fight. And if you're not getting Backtick at the right line, it's probably not worth it, to be honest. So, if you're one of those guys that likes to really get that value for your money, I definitely have no problem with anyone taking Emmett in this place right here. So, definitely looking forward to this fight. But yeah, I'll pick Backtick to win this fight. Wow, this next fight, man. Return of the Hall of Famer Uriah Faber, coming back at the age of 40. I'm really pumped up for this fight. If any fighter was going to come out of retirement at the age of 40, who other than Uriah Faber? This guy's body, he looks like he's 30 years old. He's taken such good care of his body. An outstanding record, man. 34-10. The 10 losses that he had are really to the cream of the crop of mixed martial arts fighters. Guys like Jose Aldo, Renan Barão in his prime, Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz. All the mediocre guys that have ever been put up against Uriah Faber. He's went out there and he's always handled business. All those B-level fighters back in the day, from the WEC days to the beginning of the bantamweight, featherweight division in the UFC. He's gone out there and he's handled work. And he's beaten good guys too, So, here, this is a tough fight though, man. Ricky Simone, this is a guy that I'm pretty high on. I think this guy, the hype is real on him. This guy has 2 victories that really stand out to me, and they might not be the biggest of names, but I know talent when I see it. And, that win against Montel Jackson was very impressive. The win against Merab Davashvili, very impressive. Those guys are, tough grapplers, and Simone did his thing. He's an absolute beast. Tough guy, man. He has that mullet, just rocking out there, and he can grapple, he can strike, he has heart. You ain't gonna put him away. You gotta fucking kill this guy. You gotta fucking pull a gun out and shoot him. So, I don't know, man. This is gonna be a tough test for Uriah. I wouldn't put it past Uriah, though, man. Like I said, if you're not, championship caliber type of fighter, when Uriah is fighting you at that point in time, Uriah Faber's gonna handle work and defeat you. So, this is a little different, though. 40 years old, things might have changed. You had quite a long layoff, too. So, we got to see how's he going to bounce back after a layoff, getting up there in age. He has a daughter now. This is a tricky fight, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm picking Ricky Simone to win the fight. I feel like you have to. As far as just what you have on, what's on paper and what you got right now, you have to go Ricky Simone. This guy's been active. He's a solid fighter. He's young. He has the youth. He has the tenacity. But, I think the line might be a little bit off. I think there's value on Uriah Faber. He's taking this fight super, super seriously. He's never left the gym. He's been just putting work in ever since he's retired. He's been fighting with these young guys, training them, running the gym. And that he had, all the time in the world just to focus on this fight. He's very wealthy right now. He's settled in. And for sure that this was a training camp that was taken very serious. So, that being said, I'm going to take Ricky Simone to win this fight, but I'm really rooting for Uriah big time. I hope he pulls this fight off. Maybe he could pull off a guillotine submission, some type of maybe a rear naked choke. Maybe Simone gets a little cocky, starts shooting for some takedowns, and Faber could snatch something up. Or, maybe, Faber's still quick and can outstrike him, and maybe win a close decision. Faber's going to have the hometown advantage big time. I mean, everyone in this arena is here to see Faber fight. You know what I mean? They're all going to be there to watch him fight. So you have to take that into consideration. Even if this fight is somewhat close, Faber's probably going to edge it out, You know how these judges are, man, with the hometown guys. So, I'm really excited for this fight. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. I mean, why is this fight not the main event? Or correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen it bounce back and forth on a lot of these websites. I mean, is this event, Jermaine Randamie versus Ladd, or is this Faber versus Simone? If waiting to fucking see if that's official. But I mean, as of right now, it looks like Jermaine's the main event, Jermaine and Ladd. So, but I'll be rooting for Faber big time, man, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will be too. So hopefully he pulls this fight off. All right, we got the main event of the evening. Jermaine Randamie taking on Aspen Ladd. This is a really, really nice stylistic matchup. Aspen Ladd, she's a tough grappler, man. She's tough. She's strong. She gets a hold of girls, and she suplexes them down, man. I like her little body trip takedowns. When she gets on top of you, she's very heavy. She's a thick chick, a very thick girl, very strong, and her ground and pound is nasty. She's out there screaming, dropping fucking hammer fist on your side of your head. She's finished fights like that a couple times. She'll take your back and just pound you out, flatten you. Very, very tough chick. She's coming in as the favorite, a pretty hefty favorite. And then you got Jermaine Randamie, who is without a doubt one of the best female strikers to ever fight inside the octagon or inside any mixed martial arts cage for that matter. Very, very polished striker. If she has any holes in her games, it's when she gets taken down, she has trouble getting up. It's not so much her takedown defense. Her takedown defense is actually up to par. She's pretty good at stuffing takedowns. It's just if you happen to get that takedown, she's probably not going to get back up for the rest of that entire round. So I'm hoping that she's really been working on that, because otherwise Ladd's going to get her down and she could finish her. Sitting on top of Jermaine, she could easily finish her, just smashing her. But if Jermaine is able to use her takedown defense, and use the wizard and just lean against the cage, stuff those takedowns, wear out Aspen, there's no question in my mind that Jermaine is going to absolutely piece up Aspen on the feet. Yeah, Aspen is tough, and she likes to take shots to give them back. That's not going to work in this fight. Straight up, Jermaine is going to be just tagging her. She has pinpoint accuracy. She's going to be dropping fucking just mean, clean, straight strikes right to Aspen's face. I'm telling you right now. Aspen will try to, she'll try to eat them and throw some back, and she'll probably land a few back, but it's not going to be enough. And she's going to get bloodied up, possibly. I don't know if she'll get finished, maybe, because Aspen seems like a tough girl, but she'll lose the fight. So it simply comes down to this. Is she going to be able to get that takedown and do something with it? Finish Jermaine, or, possibly just, win the majority of the fight, win this decision? It's going to come down to that, man. This is a stylistic matchup, striker versus grappler, in my opinion. And again, not that Ladd is just a straight grappler, but she's not going to be able to strike with Jermaine. I'm going to take the underdog in this main event. Don't get me wrong. I have this fight close. It can go either way. But as far as value goes, I mean, I'm taking Jermaine, and I could just see her winning this fight on the feet. I'm hoping at least that she's taking this fight serious. And I am a big Aspen Ladd fan, but I don't know, man. She's a little bit too green right now to strike with a girl like Jermaine. So, I mean, I'm pumped for this main event. We'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I'll take Jermaine Randamie to put in some work, get back in the win column. She's been out the game for a little bit. She's going to get back into the mix of things. All right, guys, that wraps up UFC Fight Night 155 taking place in Sacramento. Definitely excited for this card. I'm really pumped to see what Uriah Faber comes out there and does. I would love to see the clock get turned back and Faber go in there and get a finish. It would be fucking crazy to see. Other than that, pumped up for that Morais Backtick fight. Josh Emmett is absolutely no joke. And I want to find out, is Backtick the real deal? I've been waiting years, man, to see what this guy was going to end up being, where his career was going to go. This guy, like I said, was a top prospect years ago, man, training out of ATT since he was a young buck. Number one, at one point in time, he was the number one prospect, man. So, pumped up for that fight. I'm definitely excited to see the Darren Elkins fight against Ryan Hall. I think that's a cool stylistic matchup. So, yeah, man, this weekend, I'm pumped for the fights. Other than that, we got 3 nights of fights coming up in a row, starting tonight with PFL. A lot of heavy favorites on that card. I recommend you guys stay away from it. I think the lines are just very high, and some of these fighters are a little bit questionable, so stay away from that. Bellator is on Friday night. I think there's some opportunities to make some money there. For those of you guys that are interested, DM me on Instagram, comment below. I'll share that knowledge. And then, of course, Saturday we have the big UFC event. So, yeah, it's an exciting next 3 days for fight fans, so I'm pumped for it. In closing, I want to thank all the supporters out there, all the new subscribers, people that subscribed already. Without you guys, the channel would not be growing the way that it is. So I want to let you guys know it's much appreciated. And there's going to be some big things coming from the Teller as we move along. It'll be interesting for you guys to sit back and watch this ride, because I'm telling you, it's going to end at a very high place. Some of you guys may not believe it, but stay tuned, and you'll see over time what the Teller's about. I'm aiming for ESPN, Fox Sports 1. I'm going to have a mixed martial arts betting show. Give it some time, and that's what's going to happen. Mixed martial arts betting is it's growing like a cancer. The only difference is it's not a nasty terminal disease. It's something that's fucking just, it's fun. It makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck. It's just fucking, it's an adrenaline rush. It's addicting. It's the fucking best shit, man. So, you guys stay tuned. See, how high the Teller's going to keep going, because I'm telling you, the sky is not even the limit. The infinite is the limit. So, stay tuned to see that. For all the haters, I got nothing to say to you guys. Keep sitting back and listening to my show, because I got a bunch of haters listening to my voice right now. It's your little pathetic life. You're sitting there hating on me as my voice tickles in your eardrums. Other than that, like I said, man, please like and subscribe, and all the supporters. Salute. Signing out. The Teller. The MMA fortune teller.
The Teller. The Teller. The Teller. The Teller.